and eventually got to, working for his organization. And, of course we all miss him and how he's impacted people's lives in different ways. And it really is just a testament to his faith and to all of the hard work he put into Turning Point. Not only did he affect so many millions of people when he was alive, but he has continued to affect so many positively in his death. And that's not something that many of us can say that we know of people who have done that or will even do ourselves. So that impact, has been really substantial. And to have, to be a young person in the movement and to help influence so many other young people to stand up and get involved and really live out Charlie's vision and all that he put into this movement. When did he start this? 2012. I'm sure many of you have seen the edits and the social media recaps of his accomplishments. But in 13 short years, he's built an empire of a movement, and he has, again, reached millions and millions of people and affected the trajectory of so many young people, especially so many young people's lives, including myself. And that kind of leads in, I don't want to skip if you want me to transition right into what the high school program is that I do with Charlie's movement, but let me know if you want to kind of go over through that presentation of Charlie's life, or if you want me to just jump into...
No, go ahead and jump right into that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to slide you off to the side so people can still see you, but I'm going to put up those cards you sent me.
Could you say one more time? Sorry, I couldn't hear it.
I said I'm going to slide you off to the side. You're on the screen.
Okay.
You can't see yourself, but I'm going to slide you up to the upper side of the screen so people can see the card and you can speak to it.
Okay. Because I can't see the presentation or anything.
Well, you can't see the card, but they can see the card. So it's what is the Club America, a student-led leadership initiative empowering students? You know the card.
So you're on the What is Club America thing right now?
Yep. So you can speak to that.
Okay. So yeah, I can't exactly see what everyone else is seeing, but I can give a general recap of what Club America is. I know last time I talked to the group, we were here as maybe this will help. Okay, perfect. Yeah, we were here as Turning Point USA High School, and over the summer we, again, talking about part of Charlie's vision, we rebranded our high school department to be called Club America. I know as many of you already know, the public school system and really the private school system isn't much better anymore, but so many students, when they were wanting to start these Turning Point USA groups, they were having a lot of trouble, getting it through the proposal phase. So they would go to their administrators and say, I want to start this Turning Point USA club, and, just because of the name recognition, it would instantly get shut down, and, students were discouraged, and they never really were able to successfully get things off the floor. So, again, part of what Charlie wanted to do was rebrand this, try to give students a better chance of, being able to successfully start and lead one of these groups in the schools. So we went through a rebrand, and that's why we're now called Club America. A lot of people, they hear Club America and they don't understand how we're affiliated with Turning Point, or that we really are Turning Point. And that's a good and a bad thing. That's kind of the point, is when we go into schools, these administrators, they don't know exactly what it is. So that's to the benefit of the students who are proposing it to the school, but nevertheless, we are still just the high school arm of Turning Point. Nothing's changed as far as our official affiliation goes with the organization. So that's the reason for the name change and kind of the thought and vision behind that. And as far as the actual mission, not much with that has changed. The general mission remains the same, We look to empower young leaders who are, conservatively minded and hold to conservative values to promote a patriotic spirit of action, to honor their veterans, to promote constitutional knowledge. Those are kind of our three main focuses at the high school level. And they're really meant to just be foundational. They're not meant to be controversial like many of us know. Charlie was so famous for going and talking to these college students, oftentimes in hostile environments. I mean, he lost his life doing that. And that isn't exactly our goal in the high schools. I mean, we're not looking for this to be super controversial, although it may escalate to that. It does, I guess, in some cases escalate to further issues. I know St. Ignatius up in Cleveland area has recently made the news for not allowing a chapter to exist, but that's not always the goal. I mean, the goal is just to give these young students a place to meet, a formal way to get their peers together and to develop as young leaders and communicators, community organizers, because, the young generation, those are going to be the next leaders of this country, or the next parents, the next politicians, the next people in the workforce. So it is really important that we help mentor young people to, again, have values and have morals. And again, Charlie was a Christian. He said he wanted to be remembered for courage in his faith, and that is also what we want our young leaders to. We want them to fearlessly and courageously stand up for their faith and for their values when it may not be the most popular thing to do. And that's currently what we're doing. So that's what the high school department looks to do. And again, it's not meant to be like students are walking into a battle zone. It's just, we want them to say, hey, regardless of your beliefs, we support freedom of speech, and we want to talk about our ideas so this doesn't escalate to, maybe further violence in the future or whatever it be. And it's just a place for them to get together and create a sense of community with their like-minded peers. I always say when I'm talking to different groups that you can give credit where credit is due. That's one thing that left does really well, is they organize amongst each other, and they're very loyal to their causes, as we can see in many school environments as well. Oftentimes they're gay clubs and whatnot. Maybe they aren't huge, but they're very mighty in the sense that all of the students who are part of it are committed to their values, and they're not really willing to budge. So we want that. But for our Christian young conservative leaders, we want them to be just as strong in their beliefs and in their values, and we want to give them the materials and resources to do that. And that is precisely what we're doing. I mean, I can kind of give a quick numbers breakdown of just what's happened in the past month with our organization. I mean, it's really unfortunate that such a tragedy had to transpire in order for this to happen, but we've seen, I think we've just surpassed 2,000 high school chapters. We probably are up to close to 2,500 if I had to imagine. And I guess for comparison, by the end of the school year, so next May of 2026, we were hoping, it was going to be a stretch, we were hoping to have around 1,500 chapters across the nation. And we aren't even to November yet, and there's over 2,000. So that's just really tremendous. And, despite the tragedy, so many students have felt, bold and courageous, and they want to step up, and they want to honor Charlie's legacy and what he started and what he lost his life for. And that's really the most we can ask for. So it really is just one student at a time, then making an impact. And again, we're providing them with the resources and materials. Usually I would talk about some of the stuff that we can provide, but as far as physical resources go, we're just incredibly backed up right now, so I can't even promise that our students who start groups would get physical resources anytime soon, but the idea is there, and we still hope to be able to provide them with the mentorship and support and everything that we can as an organization for them to grow. Skip, I don't know where you're at on the slideshow, but depending on that, I can go over, really quickly what it means to start a chapter, and then, I guess, how we can get students in the area involved if you want.
Let's do this real quick. I did put the QR code up on the screen. For all of you over 20, how many of you know how to use a QR code? Okay, there's a few people. I'm surprised. That's fantastic. So for those of you who don't know how to use a QR code, you simply take out your camera on your phone, you point it at that little box there with all the squiggly lines in it, and a link will pop up. You click on that link and it takes you to a website. That will give you the information necessary for starting a chapter. For those of you over, I may say this wrong, 30, you probably don't want to start a chapter because you're not in high school. Or you shouldn't be, let's say. But you do know kids and others around you, grandkids, who could start a chapter. And I'm guessing, Ed, you can tell me if I'm wrong, that one of the things you guys could use are resources and help. You're struggling right now because you got this large interest, but not a lot of arms and legs to help you. So tell us what you need as an organization.
Goodness, that's a loaded question, but yeah, kind of you said it very well yourself. If you know of any young people who do want to be involved, whether they're in high school or in college, have them, that QR code actually goes directly to the chapter form, so that might not be the most helpful. And I think on the QR code there's directions beside it, but yeah, it takes 3 students from a school or a homeschool community to get a chapter started. So it's pretty straightforward that way, just kind of the instructions that it says by the QR code, that's what you need to fill it out. If students are under 18, they do have to have like a parent contact listed just because they're minors and for legal reasons they need a parent guardian contact on our form as well. But yeah, just sharing that or just directing any students to the TPUSA students website or the Club America website and having them fill out the Get Involved form. If you think that they'd be interested, that's of course the most helpful thing. And then also if chapters are popping up in the area, again, I don't know off the top of my head what is open just because there's been a lot, but reaching out and offering support. A lot of these students, they're either facing troubles with their school administrations or they might not have a location to meet because their school has denied them or is just postponing the approval process for months and trying to discourage the students in that way. So if you have a venue, or if you want to buy pizza for a meeting of theirs, or I know there's some groups have had like T-shirts that say Club America Turning Point at whatever high school. They've had those made for them. So again, it doesn't have to be financial. If you know people who could help the students, again, have a space to meet and just simple things and have a generally positive environment, whether that means getting them a little bit of food for a meeting or just generally supporting them if they're having troubles with administrations, being willing to stand behind the students, and if it means giving the administrations a call, or if you know school board members or people who work for the school district or teachers who might know of students who are interested or willing to stand up for students who are struggling, just reaching out to them, making calls if need be. Those are all really help. They're small things, but they really do go a long way. Small actions go a long way, and it takes a community to give these students an environment to thrive in. So yeah, any small gestures like that are much appreciated. And also, if anyone is looking to donate, I know a lot of people have been going to the website, which is great. But I know I've actually run into a lot of groups recently. They're actually just picking a person, whether it's at the local tea party, whatever organized group, or just some general community member is holding the funds, and they're keeping that for like the first local group that's opening up. So they're not giving it to the big national, even though it's either are great, but definitely any funds that could help any immediate chapters in the area that get opened up. That's tremendously helpful for those students, especially as they're trying to get off on the right foot. So that is really all I have. And Skip, if you don't need to expand on anything specific, I can, or if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer those as well.
I think we're good tonight. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put the information you sent me on our Tea Party website, and so people have access to the QR code and to the information. And I'm going to use you as the channel if we have interest in the area. So any adults that want to get more information and get their kids in touch with Turning Point or Club America, Mia is the regional contact for that. And so we can reach out to her. And so thank you so much for showing up tonight. Are there any questions in the audience?
It always takes money to turn the wheels of progress. There are two ways of doing it. The one, of course, is local support, which you get involved with locally. But by all means, I encourage everyone to make a one-time gift to Turning Point USA and then give ongoing support. I've done that. I'm proud of it. And I want everyone else to do that as well. It doesn't take $1 million. I don't have $1 million. But just a little bit from a lot of people gets a lot done, folks. So please take the initiative and get her done.
Anybody else have a question?
Yeah, that's, I don't know if anyone can hear if this is still on, but that's perfect. And I mean, yeah, it doesn't take, it's not a lot. I know it can be something small, like I said, buying pizza for a chapter meeting, that goes a long way. You wouldn't believe the difference that food makes in bringing in more students. So it doesn't have to be anything crazy, but those small gestures do mean a lot. And when students know that they have supportive community members, again, even if it's not monetary, just know that they have people to fall back on in a community that is behind them is huge.
One other thing before you go. I don't know whether you're aware of this or not, or if Turning Point's aware of this, or how many people in the audience are aware of this. I was at the League of Women Voters website as a result of their candidates night. It always drives me nuts because the League of Women Voters tends to be an extremely far-left organization, all about democracy, and we're a republic. But they're starting a youth group very similar to Turning Point, and it's on their website. That's a little scary to me. And so, Mia, I don't know whether you're aware of it or not. You might want to take that back to your Turning Point.
What is it again? Sorry, I'm having trouble hearing.
So the League of Women Voters is starting a youth movement similar to Turning Point. So you might go out to the League of Women Voters websites and take a look at that. And it's something you're going to probably run into in the future. Go ahead.
Okay.
Hang on, I got a question in the audience.
What was the group called?
I don't know what it's called. It's on the League of Women Voters website.
Okay. If you could send that to me over text, because it's, I don't know why the audio is being weird. I can't understand it. So if you send it over text, I can definitely look into it and see.
We have a group of that might be interested in donating to a local chapter. So what is our best bet to do that? To just find out the group and donate to them, or give through you, or what do you suggest?
I couldn't hear. Can somebody repeat that?
So there's a local group who may be interested in donating some money, and the question was, is it better to donate to you or to do something locally?
It's definitely best to do something local, I would say, or at least hold any donations. I know some group, I just had a lady text me today, and a couple of them have got together and they've done like a pledge. So again, they're not doing anything immediately, but they're waiting until a group opens, or if a group's in the process of getting open, they've pledged a certain amount to give to the group. Or there's also been groups, they might be having vigils or different events and selling like merchandise and whatnot, and those proceeds are going to the local chapters. So again, it doesn't have to be anything immediate, but it's honestly, the local donations are probably the best for now. I mean, any substantial funds, like that can go to the national organization, but like I said, anything smaller that the chapters could use to do like small fun activities and have food for their meetings, that's definitely the most helpful right now, because a lot of them don't have that. So the local is great. And I guess I know that this is far, but I'll mention this. I know I heard something about Medina in the beginning, but two of our chapter leaders tomorrow for Charlie's birthday are having vigils in Avon and Medina. If anyone is near that area or wants to attend, I can send Skip details. Just maybe let him know, and I can send that over.
If you do that, Mia, put it on the website. And with that said, too, if there's some specific interest, get a hold of me or somebody within the Tea Party, and we can provide the channel to Mia and whoever. And so we can set up a network. And with that said, I'm going to feed off of what Mia was saying. It's so unfortunate that what happened to Charlie, because he was just such a powerful individual, doing such good work. But the silver lining there is all of this new energy around people getting involved. Your local Tea Party could use your help also. For adults who aren't teenagers and looking to get kids into school and everything, it takes work to get these meetings set up and to coordinate speakers and to set up the equipment and get donuts and get coffee and just do various things. And so we could use your help here locally. Anybody that's got an interest, we've got a website we maintain, we've got a newsletter that we send out, and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to continue to appeal to people. It makes a difference when you get involved. And I'm going to give you some examples just prior to Mike standing up here on where that happens. We've talked about this a little bit before. We do make a difference when we get involved. And so, coming to meetings to get informed like this is great. Getting involved is better. The power of exponential involvement really, really makes a difference. And we need to make a difference. Look at what President Trump is doing right now around the world. He needs to be covered. His back needs to be covered. And there's so much goofiness going on around the world that we all need to come together, bind ourselves together, and work together to create a positive change. And that's one of the great things that Charlie did, was he was making a very positive difference. So with that said, Mia, thank you so much for coming tonight.
Oh, Skip, could I have an ask a question?
Sure, go ahead.
Ask a question.
Yes,
Hold on, Mia, we got one more question.
Oh, okay.
This will be the last.
Yeah, sorry.
Just a question and a comment. My comment first is that there is a Chardon, up in Chardon, they have a vigil tomorrow night up at the middle school at 7 o'clock. Much like what is happening in Medina, I believe. And my question is, how is the high school chapter different than what is happening on the college campuses? My son, one of our sons, is a part of the college campus group down at Cleveland State, and they had 11 people, and now they're up over 50. But I was wondering what the difference is between the two, and do they function separately?
Okay, I couldn't hear it too well. Was the question like, what's the difference between the high school and college, or is that not even close?
Yes, that's the question.
That was?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, the difference between the high school and college, with college, a lot of what they do is going and setting up tables on campus, and Charlie always, there's a popular thing he would say is there's power in numbers. Honestly, kind of skip what you just said. Getting involved in, especially people who aren't students, getting involved with any local group is so important. But relaying it back to the college and high schools, a lot of what the colleges look to do is get sign-ups for their peers. So, again, college students are oftentimes maybe afraid to voice their opinions because of pushback, or they just don't maybe care that much. So if they can at least get almost like a petition signature that these students do support conservative values, and then they can get looped in with Turning Point, and a lot of them, that's how they start listening to Charlie and whatnot. That's a lot of what the college campuses do. Also, tour stops. I mean, I don't know if you guys, obviously with Charlie, things are going to be a lot different because we don't have him to do those anymore, and that was kind of the big signature thing. But there are other people who are stepping up, and to the best of their abilities, they are going to campuses and trying to fill his shoes to whatever capacity they can. So there's a chance for them to host different speakers if they want at the college campuses. I think they can also do meetings. There is a separate college rep, Skip, I'm not sure if you are connected with him, but I could share his contact info or not. His name is Jonathan. He lives in the Cleveland area. But he would be able to give you a better idea of what the actual college situation looks like. I imagine that they can meet and still talk about things. I don't really know, but yeah, the high school department is meant to build a foundation so these students know their rights, they know the foundations of what it means to be a conservative and a Christian before they're going into college campuses where it's more of a battleground and hostile and whatnot. I hope that answers the question. I couldn't hear it.
Okay, thank you, Leah. We appreciate it. We need to move on now. But thank you so much for attending. You're welcome to sit and listen, but thank you so much for coming. Okay, so as I said earlier, we're going to be introducing Mike Dovilla, right? I always want to say Dovilla. It's like the Spanish pronunciation. Dovilla. And we got Sarah Fowler here, who just walked in, our state rep. Let me make a brief introductory comment. So for years, for many of you who know me, for years I've been battling in NOACA. I've been making presentations. I travel all over northeastern Ohio and present about what they're all about. I always use their material. It drives me nuts. But their material, I show AOC with Grace Galucci, who's the director, and Valerie McCall, who used to be the right-hand person, who used to be on the board. She's on the board today, but as a communications person from Cleveland. And so for years and years, I've reached out to our state reps, and for our state senators, and to our Congressman Dave Joyce, and to various U.S. senators, and said, is there not something we can do? My belief is NOACA is a metropolitan planning organization. It's not constitutional. It's not one of the enumerated federal authorities. But they exist. They were created for what their stated purpose, and then there's other things that they do. And they can organize themselves in any way that they choose. Grace Galucci will often say to people, well, we have to do things by population. That's not true. From a technical standpoint, 23 CFR 453.10 of the federal code says that the local NPOs can organize as they choose. We operate like a council on government, meaning a bunch of government entities that come together and create a set of bylaws, but we're technically defined as a county. I don't know what that means in the state roster because ODOT is yet to respond to my question on what a county organization is other than 3 county commissioners in the county. When NOACA was first created, they were created as 3 commissioners from every county. At that time, there were 7 counties. Now there's only 5 counties. So they've gone through a whole big transition, and right now they're completely controlled, 54%, I believe it is. I have a slide I can bring up. But by Cleveland, all of the, what I would call the ring counties, could join together and vote together, and it makes no difference. Cleveland and Cuyahoga County control that board. And you know that the board is, for the most part, very progressive. Thank God for President Trump. We don't deserve it. He passed an executive order outlawing DEI. It absolutely threw them in a fit. And so we pressed that, and they finally have tried to scrub that. Now, they put it on the side burner because, as you know, administrations change. And so Trump won't even be in there forever. We don't know who's going to come up next. And they're counting on when he leaves, they'll get a progressive in there, and they can resurrect that DEI stuff and bring it back. They just passed the Climate Action Plan over many objections. Actually, many of the ring counties objected to that, voted no, but they won by, I forget the margin, 3 or 4 votes. And so the Climate Action Plan, as we've talked a little bit, involves carbon sequestration, taking CO2 out of the atmosphere, compressing it, piping it to 1 of 2 counties. In their map, it was 1 of 2 counties. One in Geauga County, the other one in Jefferson County. Now, recently, because they got a bunch of pushback on that carbon sequestration and pumping it into the ground in Geauga, they took the name of the county off. They left the strategy there. So they're going to pump this carbon sequestered CO2 someplace. They're just not saying where. That plan for carbon sequestration is not a local or a national idea. It comes from an organization called ICLEI. ICLEI is a spin-off of the United Nations, and they're a Marxist organization located in Bonn, Germany. Those aren't attacks. Those are just facts. It's very easy to prove. Go look up ICLEI, ICLEI, and they're located in Bonn, Germany, and you can look at their history, as I've done, and find out where their roots are. I say all that to say this. NOACA, as a metropolitan planning organization, is focusing on a lot of things, but not its core mission. They may not be constitutional, but they have a core mission that's stipulated under the federal code, and that is to take care of our roads and bridges. If they start focusing on climate change and DEI and all this other stuff, they're not focusing on our core mission, which is taking care of roads and bridges. And right now, by the way, they just approved or talked about using areas of persistent poverty in replacement of DEI. So now they have a definition that's in the federal code called areas of persistent poverty. As I pointed out to them, that definition includes DEI at its core, so I'm thinking the federal government at some point in time will probably knock that down too. But it still exists on the book, and they're planning on using that. I asked them how they were going to use that the other day, and they didn't have a good answer, other than to say, well, if we've got an area of persistent poverty and we want to give project dollars to them, we'll just give them a pass on having to comply with all the other rules of funding. And so they're constantly pushing the limits on the progressive spectrum. And so for years, many of us, me, John Kalis, I can't tell you the whole litany of people who have been working for years and years to try to get a change. We begged, we pleaded, and finally, after many, many years, somebody had the epiphany. I don't know what it was. Mike's going to have to talk about that a little bit. The light bulb came on. Whatever the case was, somebody finally realized, yes, a state has some authority to get involved with metropolitan planning organizations and change how they operate in the state. Federal code says you have to organize. We don't care how you organize. The government's got to approve it. But outside of that, you can organize as you want to. And then there's a lot of other latitudes in there. So somebody can stipulate to an NPO or can set rules in the state about how NPOs operate. And that is, I think, what Mike is all about. And with that said, I'm going to invite Mike Dovilla to come on up and tell us what he's all about. And thank God that he's here. Thank you.
Thank you, Skip. Great to be here tonight. Great to see such a good turnout as well. When was this group founded?
Founded?
Yeah.
Oh, 2010, somewhere around.
Yeah, good. So we've got a few groups out my way. So I represent the 17th House District, which is the southwestern and southern part of Cuyahoga County. Broadview Heights, North Royalton, Strongsville, Berea, which is where I live, and Olmsted Falls. And I want to first recognize, as Skip already did, but my colleague, Representative Sarah Fowler Arthur. Thanks for coming tonight. Are we in your district here? Officially? Okay, very good. Thanks for hosting. It's always good form to let a colleague know when you're stopping through the district. So I didn't do that directly, but now you know. And I want to also recognize Brandon Davis, who's on the ballot as a write-in candidate this year. So if you live in Chester County, be sure to write in that name. We go back about 20 years together, back to when I carried the banner for the Republican Party running against Dennis, whose Senate this last week passed in 2006 as the Republican nominee that year. That's not why I'm here. I always like to provide introductions and hellos, though. We introduced this bill really to try and get our arms around metropolitan planning organizations here in Ohio. And John Kalis, who taking pictures right now, but who really introduced me and educated me on this issue as a member-elect last fall, is largely responsible for the legislation that is now introduced. And I should say as well that I'm a repeat offender in the legislature, or a fake freshman, as I call myself, and I served previously from 2011 to 2016. So not new at the job, but out for 8 years and now back in. And in some ways, as a 50-year-old this time rather than a 34-year-old the first time I started this, hopefully know a little bit more about how to do the job effectively. And curiously enough, in term 4 at this point, it makes me one of the more senior members, even as a brand new member coming in the door. That allows me to have a real platform with the partnership of the Speaker of the House, with whom I served last time around, and the experience of doing the job and now serving as the Vice Chairman of the House Finance Committee, to be able to lean in on some thornier issues, some conservative issues that I really want to tackle over, if the voters provide the time for me the next 7+ years, to be able to resolve for the state, or at least move in a positive direction. One of those things is metropolitan planning organizations, and Skip really teed up very well the work that we're trying to do to reform this process. And one of the first things that people ask me when I talk about this is, isn't that a federal issue? And the correct answer to that question in a technical sense is yes. It's under a federal law that goes back to 1962, the Kennedy administration, and really got legs under the Johnson administration in terms of a lot of the regulations that are tied to it. But as with Medicaid, for example, another issue that I'm working pretty extensively on right now to try to resolve a pretty significant amount of what we think is fraud and corruption in the system, it's a federal-state partnership. And so if we can provide correction at the state level with our statute to sort of how several different MPOs are organized and executing their job in whichever region of the state they happen to represent, then I think we can move the ball forward on this. We're doing that now in House Bill 445, so if you want to check that out, it's a really pretty simple bill, though. People were asking as I was working the draft on this thing, what does it do, how long is it, all this sort of thing. It's, I think, all 5 pages long, and it really has 4 different components to it to try to put not just NOACA, but MORPC, which is the Central Ohio Metropolitan Planning Organization, and perhaps some others in a better position for doing what their core mission is. And as Skip indicated, that's really infrastructure. It's roads and bridges. It's not climate action plans. It's not using taxpayer money to paint a mural on the side of their headquarters building in downtown Cleveland. I use that often, but just as a flippant example of the way that they sort of waste their money and they get outside, color outside the lines. So the 4 parts of the bill I just want to focus on quickly, and then happy to answer any questions that you have, are these. The first is one that Skip mentioned already, and that's the imbalance that's on the NOACA board in particular. I don't know that this is the case all over the state, but it certainly is here. You have 5 counties that are part of this: Geauga, Lake, Cuyahoga, Lorain, and Medina. And of the 46 members on board, 26 are from Cuyahoga County. There's no way that if everyone from the 4 collar counties, the outlying counties, decided that they didn't like a policy that the board was promulgating, that even if they all voted together, they could stop it. And so you really have what I consider to be an anti-Republican and anti-democratic process in place where, yes, elected officials serve on this board, but it's way beyond what it was when originally constructed, where it was county commissioners who provide the money, county engineers who are really the planners, they bring the professional expertise to the table. That was the original way it was constructed. Now you've got all kinds of other folks who are on this thing. And so you have a division between Cuyahoga and everybody else. That's a great chart. And then you also have a division between the city of Cleveland and suburban mayors, even within the county. My entire district is inside Cuyahoga County. So people have come to me and said, well, aren't you acting against the interests of your own county in advocating for and authoring a bill like this? And the answer is no, because even in my suburban area, we're outnumbered as well, because there the vote is 12 for Cleveland and 11 for all the suburban mayors. So even if all the suburbs said we want to do it one way, as opposed to the city of Cleveland and the various other regional organizations like the Sewer District, the Port Authority, and some others, again, we're always outvoted. And where the rubber really meets the road is in terms of economic development and infrastructure being essentially held hostage by the folks who are downtown who insist that Cleveland, they won't say it this way, but effectively have a veto over everything. And so if, say, Intel, a rather sizable concern, wants to place a semiconductor chip plant here in the state of Ohio, and the county of Lorain happens to have a pretty substantial amount of people who focus on that area of job creation. And the local community college that has 20 years worth of expertise in training up young people to work in that field. And you've got a mega site that is open and has a substantial amount of land where you can build such a facility. And it's near Lake Erie, and you have to use lots of fresh water in order to keep the place cool for all the energy that's needed for this, what's known as the large load customer. Wouldn't one think, if one were reasonable, that that would be an outstanding place to site an Intel facility? And yet, where is it? Right, Newark County. It's down in Lincoln County, down Newark. And so it's ended up in central Ohio. And that's where a lot of these types of companies have ended up going because of poor decisions that have stood in the way of economic development by entities like NOACA. They were approached to have an interchange go into place out of the appropriate location in Lorain County and basically killed the deal. And it's not said that way, it's not put that way, and people push back against this, and they question my facts and other things on this particular example. But the reality is, it's one example of where this organization has stood in the way of growth. I'll give you another one in the county itself. So the Valor Acres expansion that's on the old VA in Brecksville, just to the east of my legislative district. That, along with Sherwin-Williams being put downtown, major redevelopment of the area, both from an economic development standpoint for a major corporation that's been here in Cleveland itself since the 19th century, and a mixed-use retail area, residential, all this sort of thing. They wanted to expand one of their interchanges just off I-77. And again, they were told, not going to happen unless there's an income tax kickback that goes back to the cities of Cleveland and Warrensville Heights. And so I've labeled that essentially as legalized extortion. They got the deal, right? They'll get their interchange, they'll get their money, all this sort of thing, but only in exchange for, effectively, a veto from downtown Cleveland saying, thou shalt do it this way, or no money. And so these are just a couple of economic development examples from the region that have been used in order to get their way on a certain policy, get tax dollars to flow a certain direction, in order to get the result. So this bill, item number 1, that's the long way around the barn to say what item number 1 is, will prohibit any one county in a metropolitan planning organization in the state of Ohio from having a majority on one of these boards. I happened to be at dinner on a completely separate topic the other night with a fellow who is the board chairman for the Southwestern Ohio MPO, which is an 8-county region that includes counties in Ohio, northern Kentucky, and Indiana. And a lot of folks are now popping up from different MPOs around the state to say, hey, that's not a good idea, or why are you doing that? Ours runs well. And it sounds like theirs actually does run very well. It's collaborative. There's a process where they work together. It doesn't sound like any one county has primacy in terms of what the distribution of votes is on the board. And it's 3 states, for one thing, which actually may be more helpful in some ways to get things done. Not that we can do that in a place like Cleveland, we're up against the lake, but that one works well. So we want to get a policy in place where no county can have a majority on a board. Secondly, if a county wants to move from one metropolitan planning organization to another, and this last happened within NOACA, very close to the early history. So I always mix these up, John. It's Summit and Portage. Yeah, Summit and Portage were once part of NOACA as well. They left, I think, in the early 1970s, and so it's been the 5 counties ever since. So I don't know how that process worked back then, but the process we want to put in place today, and I'll use a pretty specific example here, is in Medina County. If the commuting pattern is no longer from, say, Brunswick or the city of Medina up to Cleveland on a regular basis, and it's instead heading over to Akron into Summit County, if more than 25% of the commuting pattern, based on census figures, indicates that that's the way that it's flowing, then the county should be able to, through its Board of Commissioners and the other county's Board of Commissioners, petition to the governor to be moved from one MPO to another. So we just want to streamline the process to say, if you all in Geauga have had enough, and it only takes 50,000 residents under the federal statute to form an MPO. If you have enough of this, you should be able, based on data, it's an evidence-based, data-driven model that we're putting in place. It's not just, I want to do it this way. then you should be able to make a petition to do that through your county board of commissioners and through the governor. That's the second piece of the bill. The third Skip alluded to in terms of what's happening at the federal level. We have a great president of the United States once again. He's signing executive orders and moving things back in a positive direction for us on things such as DEI and a bunch of other policies. NOACA and other metropolitan planning organizations, rather than running afoul of the federal and state statute or regulation, need to comply with what these laws and regulations are. And not by playing funny business, by changing the name from one thing to another, changing it from a committee to a subcommittee, sticking it on the side burner, whatever the case may be. They need to comply with federal law. Right? Under the Supremacy Clause of the U.S. Constitution, that's how our federal form of government works in this republic. And just because people have forgotten that doesn't make it any less true. So that's the third thing. Fourth, we have an employee who works for us as the executive director of NOACA who's hauling down about 4 times the average Ohioan salary, and she thinks it's okay to still have a job as an adjunct faculty member at Northwestern University in Chicago, which is where she came from before she came to serve as the executive director of this MPO. She was in a similar role out there. We should have the person who's focused on doing this job, which is an important job from an economic development perspective, infrastructure perspective, focused on doing her job solely, not commuting back and forth, not doing something else. And so, simply that's the last part of the bill. We'll see where it goes. It's assigned now to the local government committee, and it's not yet had its sponsor hearing. My joint sponsor on this bill, incidentally, is the chairman of the Finance Committee, Brian Stewart, former county commissioner from Pickaway County, just outside of Columbus. And so he's seen this both as a county commissioner in a collar sort of county outside of Franklin, very much like Geauga is outside of Geauga. And I asked him, would you be willing to come on this thing? Because I want to make this not just about Northeast Ohio, but actually have someone who understands and has experienced what this looks like in other parts of the state. And so he was kind enough to join me on this. So you've got the chair and vice chair of the Finance and Appropriations Committee that are running this. So not badly positioned members of the caucus, hopefully, to begin advancing this process. But of course, it's always up to the 65 members who are in our caucus, and then of course the entire House to get things done. And then we don't have a companion bill at this point in the Senate. We'll see if anybody has interest in doing that. And if not, I think Brian and I are happy to go and run this over there once it gets through the House portion of the legislative process. So I think I'll stop there. Hopefully that's helpful. Answer any questions that you have.
Let me read the first comment. If you check the federal code, the process for leaving an MPO is pretty straightforward. It's in the federal code. It says if 2 counties want to do that, then they get together, they create an agreement, they get the largest city involved in the county, they get the governor to approve it, and then they can do it. The problem we've got is NOACA stands as a barrier to changing that. And if the counties, just from a cultural standpoint, we don't, your community doesn't really fit downtown Cleveland culturally either. And so locking into that culture really is a problem. So with that said, I'll take the question. That might help in terms of that. Go ahead.
How did that person get the job as executive director of NOACA if they're from Chicago? Do you know?
Because I wouldn't mind, going up for that job. I'm just losing.
Well, we'll see whether it's available again soon. They've just executed a 1-year extension on her contract, and it's regrettable that was what they chose to do within the executive committee, but that's the case. And she's been there for how long, guys? Like 12 years, 15 years?
Yeah, since 2014.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, so it's 11, 12 years now. So.
Any other questions?
And the individual's hired by the board. So that's the short answer to your question.
Are you concerned that with bringing in the data centers, that in order to feed the electrical needs of these data centers, that it's going to impact the residential, where they're going to suppress the electricity for the homes to feed these data centers? That's really what I'm asking.
Yeah, great question, Brian. I serve on the Energy Committee as well, and in my prior life in the House was chair of its predecessor committee, Public Utilities, so I work in the space a lot. I am concerned about it, and one of the big things that we're focused on now is to try to get additional baseload generation on the grid, So, a lot of polls come offline now. That was the case really from about the last time I was surveying to today. New plants that two up on the lake here have transferred ownership, and a lot of other changes have taken place within the space. I have broader concerns as well about the regional transmission organization, or RTO, Ricardo, which is called PJM. It's out of the Philly area. We're not tracking. And Ohio's one of 12 different states that are part of that RTO. And there are other states that are part of it that are making state-level decisions that we'll just charitably say don't align well with how conservatives would do it and are doing it here in the state of Ohio. It does include Maryland and Virginia, to some extent Pennsylvania as well. And they really put a lot of emphasis into the renewable portfolio standard, wind and solar, and all these sorts of things that just don't reliably generate the amount of base load that we need. And so we're going to have to figure out how to get more online. I was just down in Washington County, Marietta, about a month ago, visiting some folks down there. It's an organization called Shale Crescent that is in southeastern Ohio and over into West Virginia. We have more natural gas under this part of the country, really than any other place, I think, in the world. It's essentially the Saudi Arabia of natural gas. And if we can get our arms around how to get that out of the ground, and fracking and a number of things that have been worked on for, really from the time that I've been around in this line of work, are much more advanced today, and much easier to get the resources out of the ground and where they need to be used. That needs to be done. Small modular nuclear reactors need to be developed more effectively. Babcock and Wilcox in Medina County and some other locations around the state. A great company that's been working on some of that type of technology. So the answer is yes. We've got to get more baseload generation in place so we don't have that challenge. Because these large load customers they're a giant energy suck. And the last thing that we want is rolling down the numbers on the grid. Yes, ma'am.
I want to say thank you. Thank you for doing this, because I've been hearing about this for so long that it's about time somebody does this. And how can we put the pressure on to get the state legislatures to pass this?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the compliment, first of all. And it's when we step forward and do the right thing, the right policy will come from it. So it just takes a little bit of courage by all of us, not just me. I just happen to serve and speak for a limited amount of time, borrowing from the residents, from the voters. I'll have to give it back at the end. And but all of us, as we come together and work on these kinds of things, by calling, emailing, writing your legislators, get them involved. Sarah's been kind enough to hop on this bill, and wise enough to hop on this bill, along with some of her colleagues in the area here. Steve Demetriou, I think, is on board as well. There are a number of others, mostly from Northeast Ohio, and I think all from our caucus. I'd like to see this as a bipartisan bill at some point. It's really a no-brainer that it should be. But you've got a lot of folks who are across the aisle who are adherents to big government, and they prefer this way of doing things, which, as Skip indicated at the beginning, I also believe this is really an extra-constitutional construct that's been put in place. But, in case you haven't noticed, the ship sort of sailed on that about 120 years ago in terms of the administrative state taking over for a representative republic. We're trying to put those things back to the extent we can. And that's, if I have a theme around my period of time back in this office, whether it's 2 years or 8 years, it's that. I'm trying to tackle in as many different ways as I can, whether it's on my Medicaid fraud investigation or this or a number of other things, the distance that has been moved, both in this state and in our country, from being a representative republic based on self-rule and ordered liberty to whatever this other thing is. And we know what it is. Right? It's the creeping movement towards socialism. It's Wilsonian, it's progressivism. All these things are variants of Marxism. They're dangerous, they're anti-American, and they're not how the founders generated and founded this republic. And everything we can do to help move back in the right direction is what we need to do. One step at a time legislatively, one step at a time in regulatory sense. So that's really my mission, whether it's in this office for a couple of years or more, or in another office going along.
Sarah, would you like to say a few words?
If you have time in your schedule.
Thank you all.
like Mike who have experience in this area, because Skip has been calling me probably every couple months telling me we have this issue with NOACA, and I'm asking our policy team, what do we do? What do we do? And they're mostly newer than I am. We have some more experienced ones this time. And Mike came in and he's like, I have a plan. I'm like, hallelujah, somebody knows what to do. So thanks for picking that up. And thank you for having the meeting on Monday night. We are in Columbus every Tuesday, every Wednesday. I generally leave at 6 o'clock in the morning Tuesday and get back after midnight Wednesday. And so I'd love to be here more, but it is not conducive to the schedule. So I appreciate your flexibility with the time. I don't think Mike said this. I'm chairing K-12 education. I want to brag on the bill that he's introduced with Representative Click, the Charlie Kirk American Heritage Act. Did you touch on that earlier? This is a bill that they're presenting to reinforce the ability of teachers to teach the Christian foundation of our nation, and to reinstate what is already legal, that you can teach these topics without having to defend yourself in court, without being on the wrong side of the law, that is part of our nation's founding. And we're excited to have the bill in committee. They gave great sponsor testimony last week, and as always, you can look that up on the Ohio channel if you want to watch it, or you can look the bill up, which I don't remember the number right now. 486 at ohiohouse.gov. And then, if I could touch on two other fun things that we're doing in committee, we are hoping to have a deregulation bill on public schools this fall. It came out badly. And the sponsors asked for a pause while they rewrite it, because they included some recommendations that would remove the assessment for Ohio and the United States' founding documents. So that was hard fought by Larry Oghoff and others while they were in the Senate to make sure that kids were actually learning about the true founding of our nation from the original documents. And the social studies teachers don't like it. So they're revisiting the bill and hopefully going to bring it back with a little better flavor on taking away duplicative, redundant mandates on the schools without undercutting the quality things that we actually want kids to learn, like reading and like our actual founding documents. Also having a lot of fun on the third round of occupational licensing review. This will be the hat trick for me. It's the third round, and we're doing fun things like the Ohio EPA, construction licensing boards, State Board of Education licenses. So trying to reduce our fees, be more competitive with surrounding states, make sure that our regulations, our education requirements have reciprocity, but also that we are not being unduly burdensome in what we're requiring. And we are trying to make sure that we are looking at barriers to entry for young people, because we want them to take these trades and these careers in Ohio, and we've been incentivizing in some fields them to leave because our licensure fees are outrageous. So that's a little bit about what I've been working on this fall. I brought gifts because my kids were not able to sell all of their eggs. We would love if you would like any farm fresh eggs, if you would please take them. We went on vacation and we had a stockpile. So please take them when you go. And I also brought a book, which I actually don't know, I should have asked Mike whether it's historically accurate or not, but it was provided to me for your Geauga Historical Society Day, and they canceled it. So if you would like some Ohio history books, please feel free to take them. And if you would like to sign my petition for re-election, or to come to my fundraiser, they've graciously let me put those out on the back table too. Thank you for letting me be here.
I know you guys know this, but I'm going to say it just the same. We are so fortunate with the representatives that we have. Sarah Fowler and Steve Demetrio and our representatives in the State House, and they are fantastic. And God help us, I know they're going to turn out at some point in time, and we're going to have to get their thoughts in terms of how to work to get people who are as dedicated and smart as they are. And thank you so much for people like Mike and the State House. I mean, we've got some good people in this state. And by the way, and I'll say this with them here, we need to stay on it because, sometimes they get defocused. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to ask Katie Davis to come up. She's going to talk. You're ready, right? Okay. She's going to talk about the West G school levies. I know there's probably some interest in that, maybe a little confusion on that. And then immediately following that, we're going to have our candidates. We have school board candidates, a trustee candidate here. And we're going to have, Molly's going to come up and talk to us a little bit about property tax. By the way, you want to have a fun exercise, do this. Because we got into a debate the other day, me and somebody else, about the property tax. Oh my God, we're going to lose property tax, and we won't be able to pay for our schools and our townships and blah, blah, blah. Right? And so I said, I'm just kind of curious. I think I'm going to ask ChatGPT. And so I put into ChatGPT, in the West G school district, if we eliminated property tax, using sales tax, income tax, local income tax, and the service fee, is there any formula that would be less expensive than property tax? And so I just put that question into ChatGPT. 3 minutes it took. It knew West G school system's budget. It knew all of your incomes. It knew the median income. It came back with all these statistics, and it came back with a formula where we can save $100 a month in property tax if we went to a combined sales tax, local income tax, and service fee. And so I'm going to take that and take that formula and put it somewhere where people can see it, maybe the Geauga County Tea Party website. But you can play that exercise yourself and see how that works for you. But it is interesting that getting rid of property tax is not the death sentence that everybody claims it's going to be. The money is there. You're going to end the way they take the money and come up with a new way of taking the money. And it's going to be a lot clearer and a lot more simple. So anyway, that said, we currently have a property tax situation. And our West G School District has a levy coming up on the property tax. And Katie's going to explain something to you about that.
Can I ask you a question first?
Sure.
Are townships
So today, townships are not allowed to have a local income tax. But if we eliminated property tax, our state legislature will be forced into allowing that sort of thing. And so,
I still have a question. How do we know the school needs all the money that they currently have? Is there a Doge on the school? I mean, we have declining populations. We have programs in the school we don't even want.
That's a really good question. And you have a board that's watching that. So you can ask the board for the budget and take a look at the budget and determine that for yourself. There's various people who are looking at the spending for schools. And by the way, that's across the township or across the county. You don't even want to get me started on how the county budgets are being blown out of the water right now. You don't even get me started on what's happening in the auditor's office. But let me come back and answer that question later because I want to get Katie to explain the levies to you. Can I get your question?
Hi, my name is Katie Davis. I'm going to start a while ago telling my story because of the question that you just asked. I got involved with this school levy committee because I first started getting involved at school board meetings because I was complaining to the school district about everything. I mean, not everything. Okay, I have 5 kids. And my oldest is in 7th grade, my husband's back there. Our youngest is a baby. So we have 4 kids in the West G school system. And I am like a watchdog. I used to be on school board in my last community. But I consider myself kind of like a watchdog of the school board. Like I enjoy going to the meetings. I am generally critical of a lot of their decisions. That don't relate to education. I think we have an extremely awesome education system. but more to operations. Like we were having issues with busing, so I was up there talking to busing. We had a free speech issue with our son, so I was up there talking. We were up there communicating the needs of students to be able to have free speech in schools. Because my son's a big like Trump guy, and he had put a picture of Trump on one of his presentations, which then got sent to the office. So I have been critical of the school board. It takes $38 million a year to run our school district. And earlier this year, they put on a bond campaign to try and build a master plan, consolidate the schools into one campus, because we maintain Westwood, Lindsay, the West G High School and Middle School, which are all aging facilities. And just the operations, I'm an engineer, just the operations cost alone are so high. So they had put together a team and said, let's look at, renovating, getting modern facilities and things like that. So they put that bond issue on, and I was at the school board meetings politely criticizing the school board about the way they were going about that one. And which is now that one has been removed from the ballot for various pushback reasons that they got about how it came around. And I wanted to continue in the future at some point, and I don't know under what capacity, but I think we should have like a master plan. If we're going to keep all three buildings, that's fine, but let's talk about how much it costs to replace these mechanical systems that are getting degraded. We need a master plan, whether it's to keep the buildings we have now or to consolidate them. Whatever, that's in the future. It's not being talked about right now. The levy that is on your ballot for November, that's what I'm here to talk to you about. It's called Issue 16, and I hope that we can remain friends after we have this discussion, that it's a civil discussion. It is a nuanced discussion, and I am not afraid of all the hard questions. I know all of the arguments. I can have all of those discussions, but I would like to start with something high level about it, and then take your questions and provide whatever answers I can. So issue 16 is on the November ballot, and what it does is we have two existing levies, which were called emergency levies. One was in 2003 for $3.7 million, so that's over 20 some years ago. And then the other one was in 2005 for $2.35 million. And those levies have now been on your taxes for over 20 years. They have each been renewed 3 times. They collect a total of $6.05 million, and they are the same dollars from 2003 and 2005. So it's been the same $6.05 million this whole time. They have passed pretty well. Okay, they were well-supported levies when they came up for renewal. The board, one expires in 2026 and one expires in 2029. And they were originally going to were going to substitute these levies because of various groups have problems with the word emergency in these old levies. Because when they were passed, they were called emergency levies, and then as they were renewed, they renew with the same language. And I know like the Geauga Tax Commission wants them to remove that language and substitute these levies. So that was originally going to go for May. The board in July decided to move it up from May to what's on your ballot now in November, because of the changes that were happening at the state level with the budget and then the governor's vetoes and then the Senate overriding vetoes. One of those vetoes that got overridden takes effect January 1st of 2026. It eliminates many types of levies that school districts and townships are allowed to offer. One of those being they cannot offer any more substitute levies. They can't offer these renewals of these emergency levies. So the board is trying to substitute these existing levies that we have now before January 1st. They are trying to do that because these old levies are so old they're grandfathered into something called the rollback, which is where the state pays 12.5% of your tax bill for these levies. So because they're so old, we've been renewing them with the rollback. And if we substitute them now, you will keep the rollback in your taxes. With the changes happening at the state level, they are doing it under the guise of helping property owners and helping this property tax situation. But for the few districts that have a rollback left, it's few, we are one of them, that is gone. The rollback was canceled in 2013, and by taking away these opportunities of the levies that the school district can ask us for, the rollback would be lost forever if we do not renew it this November. And so the question is, do you think the rollback is worth preserving or not? It takes $38 million to run our school district for 1 year. And I would say if you have any, if you feel like you want to do research on the school district, something I would suggest doing is signing up to be a substitute teacher. We need substitute teachers. I've done it because I was also yelling at the school board about substitute teachers, and I felt like I had to put my butt where my mouth was and volunteer to sub. So I have subbed. And when you go in and sub, it's great because they give you an app and you can choose whatever days you want to sub. You can choose that morning if you feel like going in. And you teach the teacher's curriculum for that day. If you're a person with curriculum concerns about what goes on in our district, one way is to sign up to be a sub. Get the teacher's curriculum and see how you teach it. It's the same thing. You don't just put out a movie anymore. You teach the actual curriculum. Okay, so we have the rollback tied to these levies, which are on the November ballot. It's called Issue 16. We have a levy committee. It's called the Friends of West Geauga Schools. We have a Facebook page where we've been trying to put up information to help spread the word about this Issue 16 on the ballot, and also let people know this is not the issue for the building the new school. And if it passes, then it is a continuous levy. People are saying, that's a fact that's trying to be hidden. That's not trying to be hidden. It says it on your ballot. And that is one of the things that the tax commission also had proposed to the school district. They said that in Russell, that's all they have now are continuing levies. They said that we recently passed police and fire continuing levies, that this is the way it is now. Okay, whether that's true or false, I guess we'll find out after November about how Chester feels about it. Our board was conflicted about putting it on as continuous, but it also saves the rollback forever. In a 10-year period, this rollback saves West Geauga taxpayers $7.56 million.
Which means it costs me.
It costs you more than that. No, it costs you the 80-something% of the levy, right? If you vote no, there's a chance that if you continue to vote no, that the school would lose this. This levy cost covers 16% of our annual expenses to run the school district for a year. So if this money doesn't get renewed now and never gets renewed, then the school district is going to have to cut out 16% of their annual expenses. And if you think that they are over, spending too much, I would say sub. Again, I mean, you can see you can see everything that's there. You can talk to teachers, Yes, sir.
If the rollback comes to your school district from the state, and it does not come from your taxpayers locally, that means it's coming from me. It's coming from the rest of us.
Well,
Never, ever, 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 for any reason, no matter what the ribbons and the bows and the tie-ups look like, ever pass a continuous levy. You've given up your freedom. You've given up your republic. Never, ever on continuous levies. Ever. And it has to come from somewhere. It comes from the state. If it's not coming out of your pocket in Chester, it's coming out of my pocket in Troy Township.
I don't know if you live, you might actually get more mad at this, but if you live in Troy Township and you don't have any school districts that still have the rollback, yes, I would say you're rightful to be angry. But as a West G person who still has the rollback, there's so few districts in the state that still have the rollback. I don't know what the number is, maybe a handful, that of the state dollars that we're getting back, it's a lower percentage because there's so few districts that even have the rollback. So yes, in Troy Township, they're paying a higher percentage of our rollback
There still
than
has
we
to
are
be
ourselves.
an origin for money. It doesn't come out of thin air.
Right, I agree. I agree
If
with
you're
what you're
not
saying.
paying it and you're getting it, someone else, by definition, is paying.
I agree with
And I
that.
think I resemble that remark.
I agree with that, yes. And the school board pushed back on the tax commission and said, Chester voters specifically like to be come back and asked for the money. And that's fine. You can do that. But I would ask you, do you think if this levy fails, that the next levy the school district is going to put on would be for the same exact amount of dollars as from 2005? Like, I don't speak for the school. I don't work for them. I think they would probably ask for more money, and they would do something like put it on a May ballot when people are in Florida, or do something else. Like, right now, this is on a November ballot. If we can pass it, it would save the rollback, but however you feel about it. Yes, ma'am.
What is the tax based on? What I'm asking is, our property taxes on our valuation of our homes has gone up considerably since 2003 and 2005. So is it based on the new?
No, it was calculated based on the 2003 and 2005 house values.
Okay.
And it's not an adjustable, it's not like an adjustable rate mortgage.
Katie, do you mind if I cut that? So let me give you a little bit of an explanation on the rollback process, because it doesn't apply just to schools, it applies for all the taxes. And years ago, the state decided to do away with these rollbacks. The rollback is basically a subsidy, but it comes out of different taxes. So the property tax, your property taxes rate is reduced, and they use sales tax or another tax, probably sales tax, to subsidize then the local schools to make up for the loss that they would have in the property tax. So it's not a property tax related thing. We're not taking money out of people's pockets to make up for the difference in the property tax. The state's kind of flush with cash right now, so they're using different taxes. Now they realize that that's money that they wanted to keep in their pocket for wasting on other stuff. And so they stopped that rollback process. But for the time being, even in the township, we have old levies. And the minute you pass a new levy, that's the reason we did a replacement levy. If you do a new levy, you lose the rollback. There's no subsidy. So you pay the full amount on the levy rather than a discounted rate on the levy. And so the continuing levies fall under a new set of rules, or the old set of rules. Let's say if you pass the continuing levy, which I don't really like continuing levies either, because you don't get to vote on them again, but it does maintain that for you locally, that rollback, which is paid, it is paid out of other tax dollars, but it's paid out of the sales tax dollars, and we're kind of flush with cash in the state of Ohio. So, sorry.
No, that's fine. And the Geauga Tax Commission has in the past, if they thought the school district had too much money, suspended a levy and sent that money back to taxpayers. So the tax commission has the authority to suspend a levy. So if you think we don't need the money, lobby them to, if it passes, lobby them to suspend it until, inflation has eaten away that $6 million more, and, the school district continues to it. There's one other thing, because I hear the elimination of property taxes as a thing, and if I follow those groups, and if you support that, there is one extremely nuanced thing I would just like to put out there, because I hear nobody else saying it, is that if property taxes are eliminated in the state of Ohio, one way or the other, I'm just speaking neutral on it right now, I personally fear that the money that we put locally through our property taxes is not going to then stay local. I fear that somebody at the state is going to use the opportunity of eliminating property taxes to say, okay, well, we'll collect all the money through the state income tax because, certain places can and cannot have an income tax, and then we'll redistribute it back to you. Okay, so say, what if you give $100 and your community only gets 80 back? Like, I'm scared of that. And I just want to put it out there that when the state determines how it funds your local school district, because we get portions of our funding from the locals, from the state to help to supplement our local property taxes. The way they had divided up the money in the past was by how much money the districts are using now. So, like, they would say, oh, West G is spending $30 million, and they get, a percentage of the state tax dollars tied to, how much our local tax people are giving. And so I think that if you're for eliminating property taxes, that if the levy passes, it might end up helping us by saying, that we support our schools out here and we deserve more of this money coming back to us. So I have two papers over there on the table. One is a little chart with some words. And the first chart shows that out of our 8 surrounding communities, West G district has one of the lowest school district tax rates in our area. And then the next chart is we have one of the best performing school districts in our area. We have one of the best school districts in Ohio with a low tax rate. Okay, they are being frugal. And then, so that's over there if you want to look at it, yes?
I pay an income tax to the Berkshire School District.
We don't have income tax here.
So all I have to say is I'd like to hear your welcome. Thank you.
I can get a joke.
I pay for my own local schools.
Right.
I expect you to do the same thing.
Oh, are you talking about the rollback?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. People outside of Geauga people outside of West G School District don't want us to keep the rollback. Okay? They don't like it. If you add Berkshire income tax to this chart, then we have the second lowest effective tax rate in our surrounding area and the second best performing school district. The number 2 high school in the state of Ohio. And so I guess, the other thing is if you think of any other additional questions, we're having an information night with school district representatives, the superintendent and treasurer on Wednesday night at Patterson's. If you have any other additional questions, you want to hear it directly from the school district, we'll have that event on Wednesday night, and those papers are on their table. Yes?
How much does it cost to educate each child in a school district, and what percentage are privately or homeschooled of all the children in this district? Because there's a lot of people that are paying for homeschooling, they're teaching their own children. So that's saving the district boatload of money.
I don't have the percentage on homeschools. They would probably know on Wednesday, or I can get your information and find out and get it back to you. And I don't have the breakdown on the rate it costs to educate a child. But it's $38 million annually, and if you say we have 2,000 students, you could figure that out. It goes different, it's not, every student's not the same. We have, like, public schools have to accept every student in the district, including those with, disabilities, learning disabilities, which is great. Everybody deserves public education, and we have a great system in our schools to support students of all needs. Yes.
Katie, I'm going to pull the plug on you right
Yeah.
now.
One question. Open enrollment account for what percentage of the budget?
I don't have that either, but I can get it to you.
So those are all good questions, but Katie is really on the levy committee, and I don't think she can respond for the board. But you can go to the Pattersons, and there'll be more information available.
Yeah.
Thank you, Katie, for coming and trying to explain that. The bottom line is, these are replacement levies. Tax-wise, it's not going to cost you any more money. If there are issues with it being a continuing levy. And so you can do more homework on your own. And so forth. Go ahead, Sarah.
I think that a bit of change since that information came out, because if it is worded as a replacement levy, it will lose the rollback. I had that from the vice chair of Ways and Means that I just was asking. So maybe just double check that a little bit before you make a decision one way or the other.
Now say that again. You're saying that a replacement levy now will lose the rollback based on the new law? That would be a huge surprise to the school.
It's substitute.
Oh, substitute, I'm sorry.
That matters a lot.
It's the word substitute on the ballot.
Sorry, substitute. Oops.
Yes.
Does anybody know how much funding goes to West Geauga schools from the Ohio lottery?
Yeah. It's an extremely small amount. So, we lost the mic. So, we got some candidates here tonight. We have 2 trustee candidates and a school board candidate. Stand up if you're a candidate, local candidate. So, I want everybody to make sure that you can hear. What's that?
Chris Hare was.
Yeah, Chris Hare had to leave. Chris Hare is running for trustee in Russell. And so let's quickly give each of these individuals 5 minutes. Is that okay with everybody? Do you want to hear from them? Okay. Let's start with Ellen. Ellen, come on up.
She said 3. Yeah.
5 minutes. I said 3 minutes. You can be up here. All right, Ellen Naylor is running for West Geauga School District. Ellen, you're going to have to speak loudly.
Okay. Probably, we just had candidates forum on Thursday, the League of Women Voters, and I just saw, I haven't watched it yet, but it just popped up, the recording, so we're officially you, or you can recommend anybody else to go see the candidates for all these races there. I wanted to say something a little bit different after listening to some of the things that Katie said, because I'm running for school board because I actually think that the traditional definition of school board, which is the bridge from the community to the schools, we've kind of lost that a little bit. In my view, particularly from having it heavily weighed with teachers. Because teachers have they have the background and the credentials to do it, but they're steeped in the language and the attachment to the school. So I think I'll just tell you a little bit about myself. So and I also want to say, after listening to her, the power of parents, and I think the school boards should be. We might not all like what the parents come in and say, but that's the power of our community speaking. And like she said, so many of the parents actually are the ones that look at the curriculum. They're there. They get the reports from their kids. They know what's going on. They know if their kids feel safe in school. And sometimes it's loud discussions. But I really think that all the stakeholders should be we consider them our assets. So I'm a mother of 5 adult children, so I have the experience of being a parent, but I don't have kids that are actually in the school that perhaps might sway or make me feel a little bit differently about that. I have educational credentials. I have my Master of Education in Curriculum Design with a specialty in ESL, and I've done a lot of volunteer teaching, tutoring, mentoring in a variety of ways, in both locally and also in the city of Cleveland. I've done adult and also elementary age tutoring. So I'm asking to be your school board member because of the values I hold, and I just really would like the opportunity for our board to be more of that bridge between the community and the school, and that we would listen to everyone and take these into concern. And also the board has their official meetings and there's public testimony, but it also has the ability to hold other meetings when there's particular concerns of the community or the parents. So I just would like to ask for your vote on November 4th, and you can look at the League of Women Voters and some of my materials too to see more detailed what I have in mind. And if that sounds good to you, I'd like your vote, and I would also be happy to talk to you afterward. We're not going to keep you here forever and ever, but if anybody wants to talk to me, I'll talk to you about anything, and hopefully it would be your vote, and you could pass that on to 5 or 6 other people. Once you hear somebody talk and you see somebody in person, then you just have a stronger way to talk to other people, and that's really what I need, is to have everybody talking to other people. So I would ask for your vote on November 4th. Thank you.
We're going to take 2 questions. Anybody got a question for Ellen? Okay then. That's easy. All right. If our 2 trustees could come up here, and you get to be sized up side by side. What's that? And you got 5 minutes.
Good evening, everybody. Is this on? Yeah, thanks everybody for coming tonight. I think it was a wonderful presentation. Thanks you for that. I appreciate it. I'm running for trustee. My name is Mike Petrizal. I was at the League of Women Voters forum last Thursday night.
Trustee of what?
Pardon me?
Trustee for what community?
Chester trustee. I'm sorry for those who don't know. I sit on 3. I've sat on 3 county boards within our county. Been on 2 of them for my 2nd term right now. I used to be a former trustee, and I'm running because we need some accountability and transparency and knowledge about what's going on in our counties and in our townships. I think I have a strong background and the experience to do those things, especially from the financial. I've been a treasurer for the Mental Health Board, and I've been a treasurer for the Metropolitan Housing Authority. And if anybody's interested in either of those, you can call me up anytime, contact me, I'll be here tonight. But I want to bring back to Chesterland some accountability and responsibility to the citizens. There's been no transparency. They don't get the minutes up on time on the internet for you. I mean, it's just a hodgepodge of things that go along in Chester that nobody seems to care about. There's only a few people who run right now that really care about them, and I think we need to get those people involved in that. We need more people involved. We need young children involved, young people. Brandon, new to the community, excellent, is glad he's running. So, I'd appreciate your vote. I'm a write-in candidate. I have cards in the back if anybody needs to understand how to spell my name, because it's a long one. I'll be more than happy to communicate with any of you anytime if I'm elected, and I will help you any way I can. So, I respectfully request your vote for Chester trustee as a write-in. Thank you very much.
All right. Hello, everybody. I'm Brandon Davis. I'm running for Chester trustee also. You can vote for two, so there's two here. I moved here about a decade ago with my wife. Probably the best decision I ever made in my life was marrying that person who was just up here talking about schools. So thank you to my wonderful wife. And she said she's coming to the Tea Party event to talk about tax levy. So that's great right there, right? So anyways, she's great. So we moved here a decade ago. We picked here because of, safe community, good city, good town services, our rural lifestyle of living, and of course lower taxes. And basically, I want to make sure we keep those things going on here in Chester and enhance it. We do have things like transparency of the township that we need to make a lot better. And of course, if you're from around here, you drive through center of Chester, and you'll see it's not representative of our community. Our commercial district has been withering over many years, and we need to be a little more proactive about the commercial district only and kind of making that redevelop a little more. It's not like it was in the 90s. Basically, want to work on those things, and of course, lots of stuff's going to come up as you're a trustee, and we'll team with everybody, inside the government, outside the government, to try and solve problems. As far as me as my career, I started in construction in the field, came up superintendent, project manager, eventually executive and business owner of construction companies, which is what I am today. And there's a lot of stuff. The League of Women Voters video is out there. There's a lot of stuff on our website. So I encourage everybody to do that, to go check all that out. We do have a lot of capital project kind of needs in Chester that are going to be coming up in the next decade or so. So actually my technical background might help with that also, but it's about more than that. So that's really it. Appreciate it. Ask for your vote. If you live in Chester, hold on one second. Ask for your vote. Write in Brandon Davis. Got to bubble it and write it in. It's a weird ballot. We got one guy on the ballot and then 2 write-in slots for 2 open seats. So we got 4 write-in candidates. So it's an odd one. My wife is going to ask me a question and drill me up here.
What's your opinion on senior housing?
Yeah, and I want to do some things to help that, as much as we can. We are a township to help our aging population age in place. Not to leave their homes in this great community. So we can do a few things and be more proactive about that. So I forgot to say that. That's what she asked. That's it. All right. Thank you.
All right. So, Molly, where are you? Molly, come on up. Molly of the Sturbridge campaign.
Yes.
And property tax.
Yes.
Been doing a lot of signatures on property tax. By the way, FYI, I have a few signs over here for Mike and for Ellen. I don't know that Brandon brought any signs around. Okay, so there's some signs in the parking lot. So if you want to get some signs out, not that Brandon needs any help getting signs around, but...
Let me talk first. I'll be fast.
I just want to say real quick, with all these write-in candidates, each voting polling place has a black binder that has the list of the write-in candidates in case you're don't take your literature with you, you don't know the spelling or whatever, but you have to ask for it.
Like, it would be nice if we could get it, it would change so it was posted, but it's not. So for any of the write-in candidates for any of the races, you ask at the polling place, can I see the binder that has the, so that you can help these guys and make sure that you're spelling their names right and getting the, the right first and last name before you fill in the circle.
And to be clear, the write-in situation, we've got a really goofy, this is the first time I've seen it, goofy situation with the write-in candidates because we have so many of them. We have 2 slots. And the top of the ballot says, pick any 2. So Craig Richter is on the ballot, and you can circle in his name, or you can write in 2 candidates. If you don't like Craig Richter, you write in 2 candidates. So that's what that's talking about. So you can circle Craig and write in somebody else, or write in 2. It's all about picking 2. It's the 2 highest vote getters that get elected in the trustee race, which is nonpartisan. With that said, Molly?
All right.
30 seconds.
No, you told me a minute. They're signing the property tax petitions back there. Don't leave unless you've signed it. We still need a lot of signatures. We still need circulators. We need a place to get signatures during the winter. We've been at Great Lakes Outdoor Supply every Saturday. So if you can think of some place to tell me, please do. And there's a panel discussion with Mr. Massey, Tom Zawistowski, and John Plechnik at the West Side Hungarian Reformed Church on Puritas on October 21st. So please, if you want to know about property tax, please come. Also, I'm working for Marcel Sturbich, who's running for Secretary of State as a grassroots candidate. He believes in 1 day of voting, not 30, a voter ID to register, a picture voter ID to register and to vote, a paper ballots, proof of citizenship. I went to the training this week and they said, if they say they're a citizen, even if it says not a citizen, you gotta let them vote. I can't understand it. But please sign it. He's trying to get on the ballot in the primary in May. So it's a while. But the last time in August when I asked for signatures on his petition, there was a big wig GOP person here and she told me I wasn't allowed to do it that way. So these are the people that need to still sign. Matt on Essex Court, George on Winding Brook Lane, Norma on Birchwood, Marilyn on Pinegate Trail, Rodney on Cedar, Diane on Arbor Trail, William on Arbor Trail, Carol on Sweetbriar, William on Sweetbriar, Lisa on Hillcrest, Claire on Westwood, Marcia on Sperry, and I just got his. So, thank you very much.
Every time about getting involved, please. Molly can be out there doing stuff. Each of you can take some ownership and get involved. So one more guy.
Wait a minute. One more thing. If you are on social media, please get on Sturbridge, Ohio, and pass it on. Thank you. Now I got it.
John Kalis is from Edina. Go all the way over here tonight. By the way, Brian Massey, if you want to blame anybody for the property tax, then you can blame Brian. He's in the back of the room. And so he and John Mara kicked that off out of Lake County. So with that said, John Kalis from Medina, he's got to drive back sometime.
Thanks, Jeff.
So my name is John Kalis, as Skip said. I'm from Medina County. I just wanted to talk for a moment about NOACA. Obviously, all you folks are pretty well aware of NOACA in this room. If you know Skip, you know about NOACA, correct? Okay, so I just wanted to bring a little light. I got started in this probably about 3 or 4 years ago. I found out what NOACA was. I used to live in the city of Cleveland, and I saw a lot of really bad stuff happening to the roads. A lot of the bike lanes that you're probably starting to maybe see out here a little bit now. It made me scratch my head, so I started looking stuff up. I realized after I moved out of the city of Cleveland that NOACA still had a presence with me in Medina County. They still had a hand on my shoulder. And I wasn't happy about that. So I did some research on them. I looked up some videos online. I really felt like I was the only one that knew about it. And I ended up finding Skip on a YouTube video, I think maybe even speaking in this very room. So I reached out to Skip. found his phone number and talked with him, and that's where we kind of linked up. Now, full disclosure here, okay, I work for the city of Cleveland, okay? So I'm really sticking my neck out. I go to these board meetings, I literally fight against the council people that are my bosses, okay? It's a big stretch, it's a big challenge. I see this for what it is. When Skip talks about this, you know, especially through the climate action plan, this is stuff where we're talking about getting rid of the natural gas in our homes. I know they specifically talk about Geauga County. You know, the solar panels on farms, when we talk about the shortage of power and bringing data centers in, they have all the answers to this, okay? This is a big, giant plan. So I saw Mike Dovilla, I walked him out, and I talked to him in the parking lot. And I'll tell you, he kind of touched on it a little bit when he spoke to you all, and he told you that he was getting a little bit of pushback from some of the stronger representatives in the State House, because they don't have the issues that we have here, okay? We've got decent relationships. There was a little concern in his eyes. Now, I fought for 4 years. I know Skip has fought for probably 10. My point is this. The media is not covering this whatsoever. I think there's been 2 articles total. The first one in the Plain Dealer framed this as Cuyahoga County and Cleveland losing their voice. Okay? If this House bill goes forward and they change the board structure, that it will take away from Cleveland and Cuyahoga. But we know that's not the case. We know that's not true. Okay? But that's how they're going to frame it to all the people in Cuyahoga County. There was another podcast that was done by the editor of Cleveland.com, a man named Chris Quinn. Only in that podcast does he ever address how much of a monumental issue this is. I've had plenty of people come to me and talk and state that it's bigger than the property tax issue. It's just not that many people know about it. So my ask to you all tonight is, again, I'm a younger guy, I'm 45 years old, okay? I've got a young family. I want my family, my children to grow up the way that I did. The same way that a lot of you folks, your kids and your grandchildren, you want to grow up. This stuff will take away our right to drive. I mean, it's just going to escalate everything that we see happening across the world right now, okay? We still have our freedoms, we need to protect them. So, only by supporting Mike Dovilla in this, number one, we can find out who's on our team and who's not. Number two, we can push back to stop this stuff that's right around the corner. The plans are happening right now in our backyards. So, as a guy that sticks his neck out, I'm asking you all to please not only take measures yourself to contact your state legislatures, because that's what we need to do, but talk to your children, talk to your grandchildren, talk to your neighbors, because that's the only way this is going to happen. If he is a little concerned as I'm talking to him out in the parking lot, then we need to apply pressure. I have some business cards that I'll hand out that have a Substack, which is just essentially a blog site, right? Where I write a lot about this stuff. There's a lot more information that talks about how terrible it is. It really lays out these plans. So if you're interested, read some of that stuff. What I'm going to do is I'm going to compile a list of our state representatives. And I ask that you reach out to them, because that's the only way that they know. They need to know there's an issue. The issue at hand is not just the board structure. It's about what the board structure facilitates. Cuyahoga County and Cleveland, with their 26 votes, supermajority over the remaining 4 counties, 19 votes. They can inflict their will on us. And we know that they don't like the way we live. We exist as a mirror to them to show their failures, okay? So if we want to continue living the way that we do, we have got to be proactive, and we have got to reach out and ask these people to do what they were put in office to do, okay? It's not just about the board supermajority. It's about stopping the climate action plan and stopping the way that they're trying to shape our world and our reality. So, if anybody wants a card, I've got 10 on me. I got more out in my truck. I'll be happy to hand them out. Check me out. My phone number's on there. My email's on there. I'll talk to anybody, anytime, anywhere. I beg you, just please take action before it's too late.
Thanks, John. Thank you for that. Let me dovetail on something that John said. I've been following NOACA, or involved with NOACA, and fighting NOACA for a very long time. And what he said is absolutely true. It's not about the structure so much as it's about what comes out of that organization in Cleveland. And they are following the plan of the United Nations and of this global effort. So all of the planners go through training in school and college, and there is a concerted effort to push this agenda. They just passed, and we're going to talk about them on the County Planning Commission. We have a meeting in the morning. Geauga just became a economic development district. So now Geauga has an extreme influence over what happens infrastructure-wise in our region. They provide funding. They also have a lot of influence over what happens through the EPA, because the EPA comes and talks to them about all climate stuff and other related. They control our septic sewer system, models and so forth. Those all have to go through NOACA. Now they're going to have extreme influence over our economic development plans. And I don't know about you, but I look at downtown Cleveland and say, I'm not all excited about what your plans are and how you run things. But now they have a big influence over our county. I could go on, I'm not going to. I'm going to make this last final statement, and that is this. Be careful who you elect. We have 2 county commissioners that are not fighting NOACA. They're not interested in fighting NOACA. They're not interested in information. I've offered to Carolyn Brakey the history of NOACA, which it took me a long time to document, and she wasn't interested. Jim Dvorak makes comments about the fact that Grace Gallucci will say, well, we have to do things by population. That is not true. The way that you know that it's not true is all you have to do is look at the federal code, 23 CFR 450-310. You can write that down if you want to. Check me out. And it says the only population references that any of the representatives or people who are going to put together this NPO thing, they have to represent at least 75% of the population. County commissioners represent 100% of the population. So that's the reason the initial contract was with county commissioners. And so that's the only reference to population. Too often our elected officials have no idea what they're talking about when they just spout stuff based on some belief or because they think it sounds good. So with that, I'm going to ask you to go one step further. I have been communicating to John Houston's office and Bernie Marino's office. I've been forwarding a ton of information to them. This climate action plan cost us, the last iteration was $400,000 to complete a plan, which they just completed and they voted on it. Yes, it's full of nonsense. If anybody knows anything about statistics or data, and you look at the data, it is complete nonsense. They got another $600,000 they want to spend. That's a complete waste of money. Get a hold of Bernie Marino. Call his office. Talk to Max Kovacs. He's his representative in the Cleveland office. And say, support what Skip is trying to do. Support Mike Dovilla in putting change on the wagon. Bernie was just in Medina, and somebody asked him a question about NOACA, and Bernie Marino said, well, get on the board and try to make a difference. He totally deflected the question. You need to create a sense of urgency with him that this is important for him to do. I asked him to reach out to Lee Zeldin, who is the director of the EPA. Lee Zeldin has said on multiple occasions that this climate action stuff is nonsense, CO2 is not a pollutant, so on and so forth. Then we're going to end funding. They're continuing funding at the local regional level for the EPA. I don't think Lee Zeldin knows that. And so I've asked Bernie Marino, get a hold of Lee Zeldin and tell him they're completing their plans. You've got oversight as a senator. Ask them to stop. I asked John Houston the same thing. So do me a favor. Get a hold of John Houston's office, Bernie Marino's office, and say this is important to us. We're your constituents. We had expectations when we elected you. Please, Doge, these organizations, please put chains on these guys. Go ahead.
I support 100% because anytime the WACO has had a meeting out in our area, I have attended the meeting, I spoke out, I wrote lots of stuff on the surveys that they stupid surveys. I was there the insulting surveys, and I said, get out of Geauga County, you're not welcome, no matter what we say for you, you're going on with it. We're supposed to get this is a Marxist organization, and we've got to, I'm going to be contacting the politicians because this cannot go on.
But be nice,
because Bernie and John are friends. But reach out to them and let them know this is important. They've got to do this. If enough people call their office, they react to public sentiment. So if you get enough people calling them in a nice way, again, we don't want to be belligerent and because then they just tune you out. But if you call them in a nice way and say, look, this is important. NOACA is a bad organization, and as Mike was saying, not all the NPOs in Ohio operate like NOACA does. There are many of them that just act like planning organizations. They still do some goofy stuff. They're still pushing, some of this NOACA or the United Nations Italy kind of stuff. But they focus more on planning and infrastructure. NOACA is not about that. NOACA is about social engineering. And as John will tell you, he's got the sharpest eye of anybody I know. He's sifted through all this stuff. So anyway, we talked long and hard. And so Jim's got one last question, and then we're going to go.
Not a question, it's a comment. I'm Jim McNeil. I'm a specialty gases chemist. I've got 50 years of experience in the field. Does anybody know anything about where the greenhouse theory came from? It came from Swedish chemist Svante Arrhenius in the 1880s. When gases heat, they rise. Think hot air balloon. When the hot air rises, it reaches an area where it can radiate its heat into space. Svante Arrhenius said more CO2 means more heat, means higher global temperatures. And I have a final question for you. First of all, the only place that the greenhouse effect works is in a greenhouse. All right? The second thing is, how many here believe that glaciers are melting? What do you know about the temperature above glaciers? It's never above freezing. It's always in the 20s. Glaciers, if they move in size, it's in response to precipitation patterns. No snow, no glacier. And it goes from the solid phase to the gas phase through a process called sublimation. Try it, put an ice cube on a saucer, put it in your freezer for a while, come back 3 weeks later to look at it. It's smaller. Yeah, I know, you have frost-free freezers. Get it old. Glaciers are not melting. And the greenhouse effect works only in a greenhouse.
So thank you so much for coming out. Next month we're going to do something social. It's not going to be a lot of politics. I've got some entertainment that Ellen's going to help me with next month. And so, you tapped it, right? You said you tapped it.